So we just recorded and had a number of technical issues show up. So I'm actually starting this by sharing that sometimes you set your foot out and you say, we're going to do this at this time. We're going to do that. And then something shows up what you had intended to do. And what I'm just sharing this is like, no one's perfect. Anyone could have technical issues show up. Anyone could have something, but it's seeing that the obstacle is always also an opportunity that is, I think is what creates resilience and super, super valuable in today's world. Anyways, so Parsha and Parnassa, welcome to the third episode. So tonight, this is talking about Parshas Lech Lecha. And, as I was looking through this week's Torah portion, what really fascinated me was the conversation after Avram came back from the war between the 4 kings and the 5 kings. So much to analyze there. But after he came back, he sits down and he realizes, so I got all this money and I got all this stuff and I got a wife and she's amazing. But basically, after I die, that's pretty much it. Like, who's going to inherit all the stuff that I've worked so hard to accumulate, or all the stuff that I didn't have to work that hard, but I have been lucky to accumulate? And God then says, hey, I promise you that you're going to have kids. And what happens is Avram says, okay, so you're going to give me kids. And God says, sure, I'll show you. Walk outside, look at the stars, and you'll see that your children will be just like the number of stars that you see above you. So when my family and I, when we lived out in Vegas, so we would go every so often to Utah. It was beautiful national parks. And when we were in Utah, one of the things that I loved was after you left the valley where Las Vegas is, thank you for you guys. I appreciate your shout outs. For those of you who are tuning in live. After you leave the Valley of Vegas, the lights of Vegas that lit up the sky, you didn't really see them. So you could actually look up at the sky and see the stars, and it was phenomenal. Really cool fact, by the way. Nevada, that area of the desert, is, I think, one of the number 2 or tied for second place and one of the best places to see the stars at night in the world. That's super cool fact that I learned when I was out there. So when you see the stars, you realize, oh my gosh, this is incredible, because you cannot count them. And we know, based upon what's going on today, right, the 3 world religions, the 3 largest world religions are all Abrahamic based, right? Islam, Judaism, Christianity, they all come from the Abraham tradition. They'll come from. So God clearly delivered on his promise. But Abraham didn't know that was going to happen at that point. So he just looked up and he trusted. He said, you know what? I believe you. In fact, the Torah says, Vehemin b'Hashem. After God brings him outside, and he says, Habetna Hashemayma. Look up to the sky as far as HaKochavim. Look at the stars. And if you can count them, he's like, no, you can't count them. But then it says, Vehemin b'Hashem v'yachshav lo tzedakah. That Avraham, then he believed in God. He believed in God. But here's what happens next. And I love this. What happened next was, then God says, guess what? It gets even better, because you're going to have kids. But guess what? You're going to pass away. You're going to die before you're going to see what happens to your kids. So I'm going to make you another promise. See that land over there? I promise that your kids are going to get that as their promise to me. I'm going to take care of them. Here's the first real estate deed ever given away. Your kids are going to have land. And to that, Avram says, hold on a second. You want to promise me something that's going to happen in my lifetime? I'll see it. I'll believe it. I believe it. But you want to promise me that my kids are going to be okay and they're going to have his land? I need a sign. And here's what Avram says. He says, Vayomer Adonai Elokim. He says to God, but with what am I going to know? Like, what's your proof that I'm actually going to inherit, or my kids are actually going to inherit this from me? So here's what's fascinating. Let's take a step back. Avram, he smashed the idols in his father's house. He trusted in God. He went to war with the 4 kings and the 5 kings, basically him and a few, ragtag guys. He had faith in God. Then he left his home country, his homeland, his family. He believed in God. Like he did all these things. He believed in God. Now at this point, when God shows him the stars, he's like, I believe you. What do you mean? But at the point where God says, oh, and I'm going to give you land, clearly gave him all the money he needed. Now when he shows him he's going to give him land for his kids, that's when he needs a sign. What's up with that? What is up with that? So here's what I'm thinking. When you're in business, You can make a decision. You can get trust. You have faith in, like, here's the parameters. Here's the details of this deal. Here's the details, right? You have a team, let's say. You can trust when you're the one who's making the sales. The first level of emunah is that you're going to see the outcome. You know that your business is going well because you're running it, you're taking care of the customers, you're doing the sales, you're doing the marketing. But what happens is at some point you grow so big, you have a family, you have a team. And so when you switch to the part of scaling, you know that in order to scale and grow, you need to let go and let God. I mean, you need to let go and you need to delegate and trust that the other people are going to take just as good care of your baby, your kid, as you did. And Avram struggled with that too. It's one of the hardest parts of growing. It's the growing pains. And so what I absolutely love is that Avram struggled with this too. He needed a sign. And so next time you're in that zone where you really want to grow your business and you want to scale and you know that you need to let go, one of the things that you need to keep in mind is, you know what? Faith starts with me seeing that I'm making the best decision based upon what I have right here. But trust, in order to inherit that next land, in order to get the big next level, in order to create that legacy that I'm going to be able to inherit and give to my kids and make a difference long term, I also need to let go. I need to let God. I need to let go. I need to learn how to delegate and trust and know that Avram struggled with the same thing too. He conquered some of those amazing things, but he still struggled with this part. And that is why he also asked for a sign in order to learn how to trust. Hope this was meaningful for you. Tune in next week, next Thursday live for the next Parsha and Parnassa. Have a great Shabbos.